months to prepare the meeting. There are responsibilities, as usual. They need to organize a meeting, they need to deliver programming, right? They need to work together with the meeting host. By newly forming the meeting committee, we can expect new blood to this community. That's also a good idea. Then we can invite younger generation to this community, I think. So we had a recent meeting in this January 43, in Kofu. We had 1,074 participants. There were lots of other interesting topics, redesigning the line network from scratch. That was the most interesting talk based on the evaluation. We had 34 talks, 2 parallel sessions, 7 lightning talks, 5 scheduled BOFT, and other on-demand BOFTs as well. Yes, we did the evaluation of January 43. We got 111 answers, and based on that, it's well received. So people are happy with the January 43. That's good. Future meeting, we will have January 44 in July in Kobe. And we have gotten host submission up to January 50. So it means we got the host submission until 2022. That's too much. So we suspended the seeking a future host at this moment. Yes, we did a hackathon, also January interim meeting, because most of the meeting nowadays is remote site, not in the Tokyo area, because it's too expensive to have a 1,000 people meeting in Tokyo. We cannot host such a meeting in Tokyo. It's too expensive. So instead, we have a smaller meeting in Tokyo area. We call it an interim meeting, a casual meetup in Tokyo. Roughly 100 to 200 people attending that casual gathering. Also, we are supporting other events like academics and Japanese events related to the internet operation. That's it. Thank you very much. Do I need to take questions? No, no necessary.
Any questions for Maz and his party of 2? Maybe a question for her, maybe. Otherwise, we'll move on to updates from Tilena LK-Nog.
Hi everyone, so I'm Tilina Patrana from LK-Nog. So actually the LK-Nog community is a very young community, just 2 years old. We started in 2017 with 10 members. So those 10 members were able to put the first LK-Nog in 2017 with exactly 100 attendees. So you can see there were around 35% operators. So that was a very good amount for the very first NOG. So you can see the organizing committee, the 10 members. And then we did a panel discussion on virtualization technology. Then in 2018, we did the second LK-Nog. So there were like 113 attendees. Again, half of them were operators. So you can see the differentiation. And the other thing, 2017 LK-Nog or the LK-Nog 1 and LK-Nog 2 both had, we did it for free for all attendees. So on LK-Nog 2, we managed to host 2 workshops, DNS and cloud security and network monitoring and measurements. So these each had somewhere around 30 participants. So this is the LK-Nog 2 all attendees. again, we did a Women in Networking panel session for this conference, LKNOC 2, because we noticed a very demand in networking within females in Sri Lanka. So because of that, we hosted the Women in Networking. Okay, so the next one, LKNOC 3, we will be doing it with SANOG 34, which will be in July 29th to August 16, Colombo, Sri Lanka. So everyone is invited, and all are invited to experience Sri Lanka as well. Thank you. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Tilena. Any questions? Nope. All right, we'll move on to Moina. Updates from Mohammed Moina Rahman. There we go. BDNOG.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I am here to give you the small update from Bangladesh, the BDNOG. So BDNOG is actually a forum for the computer professionals working in different ICT-based area in Bangladesh, mainly telco, ISPs, banks, academies, etc. And the community mainly works based on a voluntary basis and not for a profit interest. Why did we set up BDNOG? We set it up because we can work together to build a better internet in Bangladesh and build a good platform to share our operational experiences among us so that we can conduct operational research locally. Then we can promote our local talent to the global internet community. As of yesterday, we have actually around 6 community trainers working for APRICOT and helping the APRICOT Asia Pacific region to conduct training in different regions on different topics. We first try to facilitate discussion of local issues. We were founded in 2014. We do have a semi-annual event. Mainly our meetings are consisting of 4 days workshop and a 1 or 2 days conference. We cover topics mainly from IPv4, IPv6 routing, then advanced routing on BGP, Linux sysadmin, MPLS, and IP telephony, cloud computing, so many things. We have a mailing list consisting of around 2,600 plus members. As usual, we do not encourage any sort of sales or marketing talks in our NOG conferences. So these are some pictures from previous BDNOG events, some happening in Bangladesh, Dhaka city in the capital, some happening in outside of Dhaka city, mainly Sylhet and Chittagong. This is actually a small graph of the number of participants of BDNOG. From normally you will see that every alternate BDNOG has a lower number of attendees, but what happens is normally on the semi-annual events, we try to conduct one event in Dhaka city and the other and out of Dhaka city. So when we are going out of Dhaka, actually we see a bit of a lower number of attendees comparing the one in Dhaka. These are the topics we try to cover mainly in BDNOG conferences and workshops. We have a very good mailing list and our website is also available in bilingual mode, mainly with Bangla and English both. The mailing list is actually open for all. These are some of our achievements, like we have promoted and we are actually using .bangla domain, and we have helped relevant organizations and relevant parties to accept and utilize .bangla domain. We are also working great with the RPK initiatives of APRICOT. Besides that, right now BDNOG is actually also consulting with the Telecommunication Regulatory Board to deploy IPv6 mainly in the MNOs. We are also doing the advocacy. The last event was with BTNOG 9 and with SANOC 32. It took place from August 2nd to August 10 in Dhaka. Some of the participants who were here, I cannot see Maz also, but they had a very difficult time due to some student arrest with an accident. So they had to walk a bit from the airport to the venue, but I believe that's not going to be a problem in the future. We are going to have BTNOG 10 out of Dhaka city in the seaport city of Chittagong. It's going to take place, I think the date has changed a bit. It will be from 24th to 28th of April 2019. So see you all in the next BTNOG. And these are some of the Facebook, Twitter, Flickr, YouTube, SlideShare, and Wiki list of BTNOG. Thank you all. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Moina. Next one will be from Warren Fitch. No, we'll do the breach and attack simulations. Warren. Yeah, sorry. Thank you.
So which way do I move? So does that move forward? Cool. Got it. Yep. Good afternoon, everyone. So this is an introduction to breach and attack simulation tools. So it's a way of being able to simulate on your environments different sorts of attacks that may be real or like real attacks. So it's a new term that Gartner, I think, came up with in 2017. And it's just another fancy word for being able to simulate what people would do when they want to get into your environment, into your network. And there's various tools to simulate that. Rather than you having to employ a red team to then test your blue team awareness, you can use these simulation tools. There's also on the agenda the MITRE attack matrix, which I'll talk about, and then give you a listing of some open source tools and some of the ways of using those tools. I'm not going to go through a simulation. This is based on a talk I normally do over an hour or longer, so I've trimmed it down quite a bit. So from a breach and attack simulation point of view, it's a way to simulate your adversarial activities with some degree of automation. Rather than you manually having to go through and do those tests, you can script some of those. Now, some of those tools are very basic and you've got to run one script at a time. Others are they're like little bots and they go around and do different types of techniques. They can also be based on some sort of framework. The more common framework is the one MITRE created, which is the Advanced Tactics, Techniques and Common Knowledge project, which some of you may have heard of if you've been in the security industry. Otherwise, from a networking point of view, it's a good framework for you to have a look at, just as an introduction to learn about. So when you are looking at the breach and attack simulation tools, the idea is to measure your defensive capabilities. Does your intrusion detection systems actually work? Do you have alerts when you need to be notified about certain activities on your network? So it's a way of helping you to do some threat hunting and check your incident preparedness. See how you're going with that. And if you didn't get an alert on your network, then maybe there's a potential vulnerability there that you might need to look at. And it highlights those exposures that you might have on your network. So the idea is that you run the simulation, you collect the evidence, and then you see if you detected those or your alerts worked appropriately. Don't know if you can see that. If you can't see that, what I would suggest is that you go to this web page here. It's actually an interactive web page. When I normally demonstrate this, I have access to a web page, and you have the different categories or type of attack areas that will compromise a network and the type of attacks they would use to do that. You click on the link and it will then give you a listing of what the attacks are and who in the wild, some of the organisations out there that actually do those sort of attacks, and they'll rate it and say how bad it is for your network. So it's quite a good framework from that point of view. So this project from MITRE started in 2013, and it was a way to basically document the common tactics that different attackers would use to get into your network. And they realised a pattern. So if you think about the police, they try to figure out a criminal's motive and the way they do that. So if someone's breaking into a house, they say this particular person broke in through the window because they always break in through the window. That's the idea of this MITRE. It was a way of trying to document that on the different operating systems and enterprise networks that you have. So the idea is to help the organisations to stage the attacks and then to come up with some way of training the people in the organisation. Some of the source tools that you have that are available, they're quite good. The top one, Infection Monkey, I had issues trying to get an on-premise one running. That's aimed for the cloud environment. Azure, AWS, if you go to the marketplace, you can just deploy it from there. Uber Meta, that uses Vagrant to bring up a virtual environment and do some attacks, and it has a database that stores the results in. The AlphaSoc Flight Sim, it basically is looking at your DNS capabilities, being able to simulate a whole heap of randomly generated domain names and see if you can pick up that. So it's sort of a way of testing your command and control servers that might be out there or domains that are vicious. And then you've got the Synex Caldera, that uses Docker and a virtual environment to run that. And then a more polished one is the Blue Team Toolkit. So this is aimed at training up your blue teams. So it's quite an interesting tool. And Atomic Red Team. This is a simple scripting engine. So you will basically run a small script each time. So it's not very automated, but it's a way of testing for a known vulnerability very quickly, aimed at most likely, the ones I played with were mainly for Windows systems, so not very good from networking. For those people who are new to this area, there's this Red Hunt OS. So it's a virtual machine that you can download, and it's got some of these tools already installed for you that you can start experimenting with. A quick comparison of the tactic name that they would use based on the MITRE attack model, and an overview of the different, what I thought were good at, so whether they had that capability or not. I'm not going to go through that because the 10 minutes goes very quickly, but that's about it. And that's a quick overview of the Red Hat and the tools that it has in there. So you've got the Caldera, Atomic Red Team, Dumpster Fire and Meta in there. I don't think it's a good tool to use as a beginner, but it's there for you. It's based on the Kali Linux, but you can try looking at it very simply. Another list, I only looked at open source tools rather than commercial. There's a whole list of commercial tools there, which may be better suited for your environment, but you can go have a look at that off list. Any questions?
Thanks, Warren. Next up for lightning talks will be Shisho from Arista, talking to us about 802.3 BS, 400 and 200 gig.
Okay, my name is Shisho Tsuchiya. I'd like to share the technical information of 400 giga and 200 giga. IEEE already defined 200 giga and 400 gig in the December of 2017. And I also share the form factor of 400 gig. This is a transition from 100 gig to 400 gig at cloud network. I will explain in detail, but this is explained IEEE meeting. And the capacity challenge of SOC. What is SOC is like an ASIC, silicon on chip. SOC is connected to the optics by the serialization, deserialization interface. It called the lane. And the SOC capacity defined by speed of service and the number of the lane. And Moore's law, which is CPU memory doubled about every 2 years to the network. This is growth of silicon on chip. In the 2011 and 2012, we was using 10G by the one lane, and also we are using 40G by the 4 lanes. Currently, we are using 25G by the one lane. Also, we are using 100G by 4 lanes. It is called the LR4 and the SR4. And now, 2018 and 19, we can use 50G by one lane. Also, it can use 200G by 4 lane. Also, we can use 400G by the 8 lane. And it also includes speed of the lane, and we can use 100G by one lane. Also, we can use 400G by 4 lane in the 2020 and 2021. So, Moore's law also adapted in the network. How to achievement 50G by one lane? It calls the palm hole technology. We are currently using NRG, non-return to zero, and in the 400 gig, we will use palm hole. Palm hole has a 4 value amplitude, and 01, 10, 11, 100. So it will be noise sensitive. So fake will be mandatory requirement on the 400 gig. This is optics and cabling. Interlock, we can use CR8 and AOC, and intra-data center, we can use SR8, DR4, FR4, LR4. In the data DCI network, we are using ACO and DCO in now, but we can use 400 gig ZR in this requirement in future. This is the interface of palm hole. Current system is using this side. ASIC connected to the optics by the 4x25 energy, and also optics convert to the convert to wavelengths 4 by the 25 energy. It is 1x1 mapping, and there is a 2 option in the 400 gig E. ASIC will be supported 8x55 palm hole, and also OSFP or QSFP-DD will be, which is optics form factor of the 400 G, and it will convert to the 8x55 palm hole on the wavelengths. And they have another option. It is gearbox solution, 8 by 55, convert to the 4 by 100G, 4 by 100G palm hole. And this is the breakout option for the 400G. We have a new optics interface of 100G. 100G DR and FR can use maximum bandwidth of the 400G by the breakout solution, but we have to consider if you'd like to use legacy 100G optics, then there is some limitation. 400G only use up to the 200 GIE because it is a limitation coming from the number of lanes. This is AOC. And IEEE standard, there is several standards in there. IEEE and MSA, 1G lambda MSA in there. And also, I'd like to explain the new 1G interface, 100 GI DR and FR. It will be released 100G DR FR module, which can support 1 by 100G palm hole and 4 by 25 NRG electronic signal for the legacy existing 100G systems. I'd like to explain the form factor of 400G. There is mainly three form factors: CFP8, QSFP-DD, and OSFP. You can find CFP8 a little bit wide, and so it is only supported 8 port in 1U. But QSFP-DD and OSFP can support 36 port in 1U. And also we can find height of OSFP. It is taller than the CFP8 and QSFP-DD. So OSFP has heat sink to cool itself. This is a comparison of OSFP and QSFP-DD. On the Z12 and DR system required 20 watt terminal capacity. So QSFP has a heat sink. So OSFP has a heat sink. So OSFP can be supported in the Z12 and the DWDM. But OSFP-DD is difficult to this solution. And forwarding compatibility with 800G, because 800G will be released within the 2 years after. So OSFP can support 800G. And also backward compatibility is 100G. OSFP has adapter to support 100G. QSFP-DD has a compatibility with 100G, so it will also support it. There is a comparison of OSFP system and the QSFP-DD system. We released 6X4, which is integrated Broadcom Tomahawk 3 chipset. And there is 2 options, 32, 400 giga OSFP, which is support 128 by the 100G by breakout solution. Also, it also supports 32 100G by the QSFP adapter. and not need heat sink on system because OSFP has heat sink, has a heat sink itself. This is a QSPDD system. It also can support 128 by the 100G by breakout solution. Also, it is support 32 by the 100G because QSPDD has backyard compatibility with the 100G. And it needs heat sink on the system because it requires cooling the optics. Yeah, this is the conclusion of my presentation. Support one lane 50G by the PAM4 technology. 400G by the 8 by 50 PAM4 on the silicon on chip, and 4 by 100G PAM4 by gearbox, supported by the gearbox. One lane 100G and 8 lane 800G will be supported in the 2020 and 2021. Merchant Silicon, Broadcom, Tomahawk 3, and Jericho 2 already supported 400G. OSFP integrated heatsink, so has a capacity of 800G and long-haul data transmit. Marketing decision will be required on the next generation form factor. My presentation ended. It is a reference of some Broadcom chipset, and also we have a transceiver and cable Q&A. It is a description of the standardization and the technology of the 400G. Thank you. My presentation ended. Thank you.
Any questions for Tsuchiya-san? All right, thank you very much. Next up, we'll have Sanjiwa De Silva from Equinix. There we go.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sanjay De Silva. I am from Equinix Singapore Network Services and Engineering team. And I hope you guys having a good time attending the APRICOT last few days. And then it was a great event. So let's look into the topic. So today I'm going to describe about some of the challenges in the optical network transport system and some of the use case of the packet technology. So let's take about a simple setup like three sites. We have 3 sites then. So what we usually do is we bring out an optical transport network. So you have components here like site A, B, C. And then you have dark fibers connecting them, and then you have DCI boxes. So you are going to provision a certain number of capacity in between the sites. And then, so what are the challenges in this kind of traditional OTN system? Right, so you have unused capacity, which takes longer return of investment. For example, site A to site B, you have provisioned 2 times 100G. If customer did not buy, then the utilization is low, so the ROI takes longer. And also for the scalability, you need almost full mesh for the DCI boxes to make it scalable. So when you have more sites, you will see that it's not so scalable. So when we simplify that into a more simple diagram, you can see that we have 4 sites now. And then, so what we need to do is that you have day 1, you provision 1 times 100G between site A to site B. And then how can you uninstall or decommission that and claim back the resources from the site B and then divert the provisioning resources from site A to site D. So this kind of system, that's what we need from the migrate circuit, just from a configuration change without moving any hardware. And then also we need to claim back resources at site B and ready for another new provisioning. Right, so this kind of system, hybrid OTN and packet-based, so how do we combine them? So we can use something like underlay and overlay concept. So we have a simple OTN that there's no ROADMs, no complexity, and then we don't have optical protection switches to switch your traffic failover in case of dark fiber disruptions. So just have a point-to-point deployment from site A, site B, and reuse the existing dark fibers, and you can avoid the standard channel capacity. So packet-based network, there are a few options, but nowadays the most emerging thing is the segment routing. So you can use as overlay as segment routing. And then you can, using that method, you can provision any-to-any, service provisioning, and then also you have a failover topology, independent loop-free alternate for fast reroute, almost same as 50 milliseconds. And also you can use the IGP with the extensions. You don't need the complexity of the MPLS TE or RSCP TE with the LDP. And then also you have no impact with the link or node failures. Right, so those are some of the benefits. So when you take a failure scenario, so you have some site like this, you have 4 sites, and then your circuits are provisioned from A to Z, and then you have a customer having 100 G circuits. So these are the building blocks of the OTN network, in case some of you may not familiar, but that's fine. So let's say you have traffic flow for the customer from A to Z via B, and then there's a dark fiber disruption at A to B, or there's a hardware failure at site B. You can divert the traffic to the other side. So it happens by the optical protection switch with the 50 millisecond switch over. So how do we apply this concept to the hybrid network? So we have same switch over timing, 50 milliseconds, but we have overlay and underlay. So underlay is our OTN network in orange, and then overlay is packet-based technology, something like segment routing. So you can achieve same thing. You have a traffic flow and there's a disruption or hardware failure at dark fiber or equipment. Then you have a failover to the deterministic next available path or the site C. So most of the things that you have challenges, some of the challenges actually can be solved by this kind of hybrid network. So yeah, so in case that you guys need to find out more about segment routing, if you are new or already some of you guys may be already using segment routing, you can take a look at this website, and then you can do some learning there. Okay, that's all for my presentation. If there are any questions? Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you, Sanjeeva. Next up, we'll have Adli Wahid from APRICOT, A Tale of Honeypots, A Tale of Two Honeypots. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mark. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'd like to take this opportunity to share a story that happened this week about 2 honeypots that was installed as part of the APRICOT Community HoneyNet project. A few days ago, I think I did a presentation about our project, what it was for, how it worked, and so on and so forth. 2 days ago, also, I was approached by Simon and Andre. So one is from Bangladesh and Indonesia, and they asked me, okay, how can we deploy one? I said, well, you create a VM and we'll get it done. So long story short, we started working on it immediately, and then VM was created, did some customization, and it went live. So a little bit about what was installed. So as part of our community HoneyNet project, we look for partners in different parts of Asia. And we deploy a few types of honeypots to play with different things. So one of the honeypots is called Kaori. And what it does basically is that it listens on port 22 and 23 and wait for incoming connection or attempts to log in. What it will do as well is let people in and execute commands on it. So from the attacker's perspective or a compromised device perspective, that it is a legit machine with shell, and therefore it will try to execute some commands, download some payload from somewhere, hosted on another machine somewhere else on the internet, execute it, leave the machine, and then now you have a new infected device. But because this is a honeypot, we will not going to go through the full attack cycle. So as long as we got the payload, attack leaves, and nothing happens after that. So from our perspective, we have the source IP address, we have information about where the payload is being hosted, we have also captured the payload itself, and then we can do so many other interesting things with it. So just for clarification, we are not a malware software provider or malware service provider. A lot of the work is done actually as part of our workshops and training, and we use the opportunity to talk about security so that people can see some visualization and maybe have some real data to play with. So I have some eye candy for you. So I have some data sets in the last 24 hours on both honeypots. So let me talk about the first one. So the one in Bangladesh by Simon. I know it's probably too small to see, but we can see some information there to show that immediately after you set this up, it is already processing or accepting traffic. You can see for this particular honeypot, many of the attempts or login attempts came from Australia, so it's red out there. This particular honeypot has two ports open, 22 and 23. So by far, 23 is very popular because Telnet is the new sexy. Everybody shipping devices with Telnet ports by default. And with default passwords. Thank you very much. The words down there are the list of username and password attempted by the compromised machines. So you can see admin, password, 1234, 12345, the F word, and then there is this, I don't know if you can see it, but there is one password there, 7UJMKO0admin. That's a default password for a CCTV. And it's probably one of the devices targeted by the Mirai or Mirai variants. So in any case, the honeypots will let everyone in because the more the merrier, of course. So that's in BD. And this is the dashboard for the honeypot in Indonesia that we just installed. Different activities. So in this particular case, the honeypot in Indonesia in the last 24 hours got a lot of love packets of love from Russia and other places as well. And you can see that they have limited attempts, and this is because we only opened port 22 there. Now, what I'm trying to say here, what I'm trying to share with our partners when we deploy such project is that there's so many things that we can do with this information. We can share back to where the source is coming from, and maybe learn more about the threats. Learn more about the traffic, signatures, and along the way probably learn more on how to harden things based on evidence that we have gathered. And you probably have heard about another product that was developed by another team at APRICOT called Dash. Such product uses some information produced by honeypots deployed by our partners in the region. So this is basically another dashboard showing everything that is captured by all honeypots that we have. One interesting thing there that I want to highlight, I mentioned about attackers coming in and then downloading a payload. You can see the wget command over there on host 139.something.something, and then it downloads a file. So that particular file, if you upload it to VirusTotal, it will tell you that this is a Linux Trojan or a Mirai variant, right? And this is something that we see every day, and sometimes there are thousands of attempts on a single day. And of course, if you don't do anything about it, then it's probably gonna compromise as many machines as possible, and maybe one day it'll be used to launch that, the biggest and the baddest DDoS attack that we will ever see. So I think that's all that I have for today. I don't have any pictures of honey, but I have pictures of bees from my backyard. So that's all I have for now. Thank you very much for your attention. If you have any question or interested to know more or want to see more data, just ping me. I'm around, and I'm also on email. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wahid. I think the final slide for this afternoon on the lightning talks will be from Toma Gavrichenkov on the NOG Alliance. All right, excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so it is very well understood that a bunch of network engineers who try to organize their own network operators group in their region are usually facing a lot of serious challenges. They need to find a venue, they need to find speakers, they need to attract the audience, they need to do accounting for all that stuff, also IT services, and finally, and to do all that, you need to start talking to people, which could be a challenging thing to do if you are an engineer. To deal with that, here is a new initiative supported by Internet Society. It's basically an initiative by a group of 3 people who are willing to support NOGs. Those people are in no particular order: Jan George, Sander Stefan, and Kevin Maynell. It is just founded. It is, I guess, maybe just less than a month old. The organization, which is non-profit, is registered as a non-profit, more of that later, is registered in Netherlands and is trying to be completely transparent for certain obvious reasons. What Alliance is planning to do is to help local NOGs with IT stuff like hosting, like emails, mailing lists, other activities, to provide them tools for better planning, for paper submission, for websites for posting the information about the agenda and the accommodation, for example. Also, the idea is to help to attract speakers for local NOGs. The organization has applied for the charity status. This is the bureaucracy part. It is an organization under Dutch law, so it's formally one of the most transparent ways you can do your job. Everything is or will be public, and also the founding documents and the financing documents also would be public. NOG Alliance is obviously looking forward for sponsors for funding. including cross-country or targeted funding for local NOGs. We have NOG Alliance has a website, so you can. I urge you to visit that website today. If you are a speaker, there's a page where you can submit your credentials. If you are ready to travel to certain countries, so that local NOGs could benefit from attracting more speakers from different countries to make the content of NOG meetings more up-to-date and better in all the possible directions. So this is it. There would be more updates, but please pay attention to that. There would be more announcements in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. So, Thomas, it's kind of like, it's like GPF, but for NOGs.
Oh, yeah, sort of, yes.
Okay. All right. There is actually one final one. After this, it is from Farun Priolka. He will be talking to us about something I think is reasonably dangerous, being on the BGP for less than $10 a month. How did we accept this paper?
Hello everyone, I am Varun from India, and I would like to speak about doing BGP for the lowest possible cost, especially for students and people who would just like to learn about the internet by just trying it out. This is what the talk is about, how to build a test network to get on the internet for the cheapest possible cost, acquiring resources for yourself, places to get transit and peer. So yes, the easiest way to get an ASN, apart from registering with the RIRs, which is really expensive, would be to contact a LIR. LIR can typically get you an ASN for $30 to $40 one time, and some of them would also allow you to lease resources. Especially V6 is very cheap. You can get like I got a /44 for $20 per year. You can get V4 as well, but that's a little bit more expensive. So yeah, somebody has created a list of all the LIRs who would be ready to sponsor individuals and the price list. You can find this on Low End Talk. I've also linked this on my slides. And yes, you can then create your maintainer objects to manage your resources. RIPE allows you to do this pretty easily. For APRICOT, LIR will probably have to manage it for you, or they can create an account for you wherein you can manage this. You'll have to create WHOIS, put in your email address, and other things which would be necessary. Like maybe like if you are peering directly, maybe you'll need a AS set there. So yeah, finding transit providers. You would typically think that finding transit is pretty expensive, but typically the VM or the VPS providers are ready to give you free transit for their for getting their VMs. Typically these are very select. But again, somebody has created a list of them on bgp.services. So typically for like $3.5 to $10 a month, you can get a VM with transit. And then you just create a config. This is my bird config, which you can then use to announce resources on the internet. You can then use something like Oregon Route View, or there is bgp.he.net to make sure you're on the internet. You can as well as create ROAs for your resources. Yep, and yeah, so the total cost for all of this would be 35 USDs one time for the ASN, and 5 to 12 USD per month for V6, and 65 to 75 USD per month for V4. Yes, that ends my presentation. Any questions? Just a word of caution, this may be cheap, but be careful on what you do on the internet. Questions? Thank you.
Was there a question in the back there, Kildan? You have a question? Okay. Not sure if that mic works though. Okay.
Yeah, this mic works. Simon from Bangladesh. Don't you think that if like a small customer level comes to internet with a BGP, and don't you think that it will destabilize the whole ecosystem?
That's a difficult question. Again, like self-governance is very important. You may get the resources for $10 a month, or you may pay the RIRs very expensive fees. But at the end, self-governance is key, no matter what price you pay, right? Anything else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Farun. Is there anyone else with any questions for any of the previous speakers? No? All right, so we are reasonably early, got about 20 minutes to spare, so that should help you suck some email. I'm supposed to announce the loss or finding of this. It's some kind of gift pack. I've checked it, it's food, looks pretty good. I think it's been screened, so it's safe. If this belongs to you, please come through. We've been looking for the owner for the entire day. Maybe. All right. Thank you very much, and enjoy the break.